Welcome to our Audit Committee meeting of February 8th. We will begin the meeting with the City Clerk calling the roll for attendance at today's meeting.
Thank you. I have present Chair Medeiros, Councillor Santos.
Present.
Councillor Paleshi.
Present. Good morning.
Councillor Dillon. We don't see him in the list currently. Councillor Bowman.
Present.
Councillor Willens.
Present.
Councillor Singh.
Present.
Member Ali, we've had regrets from for the meeting. Councillor Jane.
Present.
And Member Jane and Member Zeman.
Present.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next item is approval of the agenda. I see no one on the board, so I do have a motion moved by Councillor Willens to approve the agenda, that the agenda for Special Audit Committee meeting February 8th be approved as published and circulated. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? I see no objections, so the motion carries. Before we proceed with the rest of our agenda, I would like to turn the floor over to Acting Director Richard Gervais from Internal Audit to introduce some new staff with the Internal Audit team. Richard?
Through the chair. Thanks, everyone, and good morning. We've had a few new members, additions to the team. I'm just going to run through the whole team. It's been a while, and unfortunately, we won't be able to present everyone their pictures, but we'll visit the chambers once it's permitted. So in reverse seniority, we have Ruchir Patel. He's an audit manager. He started with us just on the 4th of January, just recently. He's a chartered professional accountant, a CPA, chartered accountant, CA, and a certified fraud examiner, CFE. He comes to us from the City of Toronto's Auditor General's office, and he's been there acting as a senior audit manager for 7 years. He has over 15 years of combined experience in senior roles in AG offices in both the province and municipal levels. And his experience includes the working at the City of Toronto, Hydro, and Suncor. Next, I'll be introducing Anand Herriman. He's a senior internal auditor. He joined us in October of 2021, a little over 3 months. He's also a CFA, CPA, CFE, and he's also a certified anti-money laundering specialist. He has 17 years in the private sector, performing financial, operational audits, risk management, and financial investigations. He has 6 years in public sector auditing, and he has international experience in the US, Qatar, and the Turks and Caicos. And briefly, we have Brad Cecile. He's a senior internal auditor, started with us in October 2020. He's also a CPA and a certified internal auditor, CIA. He's worked for manufacturing companies and has operational and financial auditing experience in manufacturing, retail, logistics, and so on. Nabal Matar, senior internal auditor, and joined us on July 7th, 2020. She's a CPA, CGA, and also holds a postgraduate certificate in accounting. He's been working with the city for about 1.5 years, July 7th, 2020, and she's previously worked in the private sector, over 15 years in accounting and finance. Gopaljeet Singh, our other audit manager, who you would have met last September at the audit committee meeting. He's been with us since June 2020. He's also a CPA, a CIA, and a CFE. And Sabrina Cook, our coordinator, research and admin services. She's been with us since 2017. And her background is she has a master's degree in international affairs, background in research and policy, and she's worked for international humanitarian organizations, such as Doctor Without Borders and the Norwegian People's Aid. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce the team.
Thank you very much. And we now move on to declaration pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda. Do any members have any pecuniary interest? I see none. We now move on to consent. I will read the items and members can identify any items to be held for debate. Item 6.1, a staff report regarding 2022 internal audit work plan.
Hold, please.
Okay, held. Item 6.2, staff report regarding corporate fraud prevention hotline update, Q4 2021. In consent.
Hold, please.
Oh, held. Item 6.3, staff report regarding status of management action plans, December 31st, 2021. In consent. Item 6.4, staff report regarding annual report 2021. In consent. Item 6.5, staff report regarding facilities operations and maintenance audit. In consent. Item 6.6, staff report regarding economic development audit. In consent. Item 6.7, staff report regarding transit follow-up audit report. In consent. Staff report regarding project assurance implementation of video court appearances. In consent. Item 6.9, staff report regarding cybersecurity assessment management action plan update. In consent. So I will just hand it over to the clerk to summarize those items to be included on the consent motion for approval.
Thank you. Through the chair, I have item 6.1 held by Councillor Bowman, and item 6.2 I believe was member Zaman, but if we can confirm that. And the remaining items, 6.3,
6.2 was myself, member Jane.
Jane, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Number 6.2 held by member Jane, and the remaining items, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.6, 6.7, and 6.8 are all on the consent motion.
Thank you very much. So I do have a motion moved by Councillor Bowman to approve the consent motion. And I believe it's a recorded vote, so I'll hand it over to you, City Clerk, to table the vote.
Thank you. All those in favor of the consent motion, items 6.3 through to 6.8. Chair Medeiros,
Yes?
Councillor Santos,
Yes.
Councillor Paleshi,
Yes.
Councillor Bowman,
Yes.
Councillor Willens,
Yes.
Councillor Singh,
Yes.
Member Rishi,
Yes.
Member Zaman.
Yes.
Thank you. That carries 8-0.
Thank you very much. So now we go on to our first item, and it's item 6.1, a staff report. And I believe Councillor Bowman, you held it.
Yes, I just wondered if staff can give us a quick walkthrough so that if anybody has any questions, we might answer them now, since we are approving the work plan for the full year for 2022.
Through the chair, thank you for the question. So this year we have 11 audits on our audit plan. Starting with number 1 on page 7 of the agenda. We're looking at an audit of the procurement and sole source purchasing. So we're going to focus on compliance to policies and bylaws, particularly around sole source and single source purchasing. Development fees and charges, that's the next audit. So we're going to review the process for collecting fees and controls to ensure that fees are paid and collected in full. We're also going to look at the appropriateness of development fees and charges in place. Make sure that these are in line with best practices. Number 3 is the business and property taxes audit. Again, we'll be looking at controls and compliance and to policies and procedures. Ensure that taxes are collected in full and in a timely manner. Number 4, we'll be looking at park operations and maintenance. Similarly, we'll be looking at processes and controls around park maintenance, how the city ensures maintenance is completed in a timely manner and to standards. Number 5, Realty Services. You may recall that this audit was deferred to 2022. The objective, the scope remains the same, to assess the effectiveness and efficiency of existing control framework at the design level. So we're doing more of a gap analysis to determine the adequacy of internal controls and ensure compliance to policies, procedures, and legislation. Number 6 is claims management. So we're going to focus on the impact of legal fees and settlement payouts, and we're going to place a special focus on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Number 7 is an IT technology risk assessment. It's not an audit per se, but it is a risk assessment of controls in IT, which will also form the basis for the IT audit plan going forward, and will give management an understanding of areas where they will want to make a priority. Number 8 is as an identity and access management audit, essentially how and who can access IT systems and what they can do. Number 9, it's a compliance audit required by the province regarding the driver certification program. There are in-house training programs in transit and fleet, and the province has certain requirements that have to be met, including an audit every 3 years of the process. The remaining 2 are audits that were not completed in 2022. The work had begun in 2021, and we're finishing them in 2022. The first one is IT vendor management. So we're looking at how IT manages the risk in regards to their own vendors. So we're not going to duplicate the vendor management audit that was conducted in 2021, simply looking at it, how does IT manage risk from its suppliers? For example, some suppliers have access to systems. How do we manage that? How do we control risk? And the next one is, and the final one is the IT infrastructure and cloud management audit, looking at controls, standard IT controls in place in the cloud environment. Over the years, we've placed a lot of focus on the systems that were on the premises, and this year we're looking at what's in the cloud. Thank you.
Okay, over to you, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Richard, for that update. Exactly what I was looking for. Just a couple of really quick questions. Is it possible to get, when we do the planned audit engagements, the dates of the last audits that were done in those areas, so we know how many years it's been since the audits have taken place? Like we know already that the Realty Services audit has been going on quite a while, but is it possible just to get the last dates for each of these audits?
Through the chair, of course, we have that information. Do you want it to be sent to you after collect information and send you the information after the meeting, or?
Well, that would be great, Richard. Even if on this chart you could just put like the date under the number 1, for example, sole source purchasing, just the date, and that's a help to us to know when the last ones were done. If you could do that, that's great. In number 3, business and property taxes, council moved a motion at the end of the year to give businesses license fee relief. Is that going to be looked at under the business and property taxes as well?
Sorry, through the chair, I'm just looking at the scope.
Sure.
We haven't finalized the scope at this time, but we'll certainly take that into consideration when we finalize the scope.
Okay,
So
thank you.
This was fee relief on business licenses?
Yes, yeah, due to COVID, yeah. And finally, Richard, number 4, the park operations and maintenance, is that going to focus on staff operations, or will that also include any contracts we have with outside vendors to do park maintenance as well?
That's something, through the chair, that's also something we would consider when we would do the details, but in my mind, we would be looking at contracts as well, because they're working on behalf of the city. Unless they've already been audited through IIT vendor management audit, so we wouldn't audit them twice. But if they already haven't been assessed, then we'd be looking at it through, the Parks and Operations and Maintenance audit.
Okay, and just when these come back, Richard, if you could just let us know what's included in them, that would be great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mullins.
Yeah, thank you, Richard, for the overview on that. Just maybe under number 3 on the business and property taxes, just quickly. I know that it was brought to the attention a few years ago that there was some large amounts of cash being paid on the taxes, and we were instructed from legal that shouldn't be happening. Can you just maybe put that under the scope, perhaps, because for number 1, for safety, I don't think our cashiers should be put in that situation where they're taking large amounts of cash. And number 2, it could be a way some of these guys that have these illegal properties are paying their taxes without Revenue Canada knowing. Maybe just have a look at it. It probably has been addressed. I don't know for sure, because I know that Diana at the time when she was here, Diana said she would look at it, because she assured us that they shouldn't be taking large amounts of cash, because we're talking tens of thousands of dollars sometimes on the tax thing. So maybe you just take a dive in to see if that's still the case, because it does concern me that there's a large amount of cash sitting in the cashier's desk at City Hall, because it's not very well protected. So maybe we could look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Richard. Go ahead.
Through the chair, I was going to say I've added it, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pelosi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd almost add now to the audit the security of cash at the desks now that Councillor Willens has highlighted, that he feels that it's not very well protected. I think that's maybe a future audit that we could do, or some information. Just building off of what both Councillor Bowman and Councillor Willens was saying with respect to previous audits. I wonder if there's an opportunity when we do bring reports like this, or the future report with respect to more of the actual audit, is not detailed, but a high level overview of what the last audit did highlight with any issues, what the resolution was, so we can ensure that past audits and future audits, the same thing isn't reoccurring in audits. Is that something that we could look into?
Through the chair, yes, it's something we can provide in the audit. As part of our audit planning, we always look at previous audits to ensure that whatever management action plans were put in place are indeed in effect and working as they should. But we can include that as part of the audit report.
So then maybe if I can, if we can, we don't have to highlight the entire audit from the previous time, but if you feel like there is in past audits one thing that you had highlighted, and then you're highlighting it, or you're re-auditing it again in one specific area of the engagements, then that's something that you could bring to audit's attention.
Through the chair, yes, that's we'll include that.
Okay. With the procurement, sole sourcing, purchasing, are you going to be looking at what other municipalities do around sole sourcing and procurements as well?
Through the chair, we haven't finalized the audit scope, but we can do some benchmarking there. It is something we would normally do as well as part of our planning, but I can make sure that we include it in the planning.
Okay.
And in the reporting.
Thank you. I'd be interested to see that when it does come back. The other, the Realty Services, although it was deferred last meeting, this audit committee supported not deferring it and having it come forward. From my understanding, staff recognized what audit was saying and have started the process of the audit in Realty Services. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, we've started the process.
Okay. And then on the IT infrastructure and cloud management, I think I'm not 100% sure on what the audit detail will be, and when we're talking about cloud management and the dollars or the budget requirements that we've put into cloud management over the past, I kind of would like to see the path that connects the cloud management software that we have implemented over previous budgets into what that audit looks like now. So would the audit, when it comes back, will it talk about any of the upgrades that we've put into IT for the cloud management software, and will it kind of highlight what the what those investments were?
Through the chair, the audit at this point does not include a historical financial review of the progression of software updates and such. It's our first real deep dive into the cloud from an audit perspective, and we're looking at foundational practices, controls that we take for granted in the environment, such as change management, problem management, incident management, and general care and feeding of IT systems. Are those controls in place in the enterprise? Are they aligned with our internal controls? And then we're going to be looking at similar controls in the outsourced applications.
Okay. And then when does the 2022 update? When's the next update for the 2022 work plan?
Through the chair. I'm not sure I understand the question. I think we are coming back out every quarter with the status of the report.
Okay.
Of the progress on the audit.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know if it was quarterly or if it was every 6 months or what. I wasn't sure. So quarterly is when the updates come back, specifically for Plan 2021 audits that were to be completed in 2022.
Yes, we'll report on a quarterly basis.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And I do see no further questions. I guess I just had a question, maybe move that the chair be heard. Regarding the delegation of authority, I've seen that it's been deferred. The delegation of authority report, when is that expected to come? Is it part of this plan as well?
Through the chair. We don't have a delegation of authority review or audit in our plan. So I'm wondering if that's something coming in through a different department.
Okay, so, but I do understand that we were waiting for, there was direction given for a delegation of authority report that was coming, but I'll follow up then with you. So it's not something that's coming through audit?
Unless it was named, had a different name. I'm not familiar with that audit. Certainly it's not in our plan this year or last year.
Okay, I'll follow up with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I do have a motion moved by Councillor Bowman to receive the report. Anyone opposed? I see none. Thank you. We go now on to item 6.2, and I believe it was Member Jen that held it.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. As I was reviewing this report, one bullet stuck out to me on page 13 of our package here under disposition, and that's that approximately half of the reports did not have sufficient information to conduct an investigation. It feels like a bit of a missed opportunity for the city to have that many instances where someone has reached out, but because the report wasn't specific enough that it seems like we couldn't do anything. So my two questions are here are, A, did I interpret that correctly, first of all? I was having a bit of trouble reconciling that to some of the tables a little bit lower. So I just want to understand if I got that right. And my second question is, do we, on the screen where, or when the instructions are given for folks to submit a report, do we outline what types of specificity they would need to provide in order for us to act? If not, I would suggest that we provide some guidance so that this number of reports wouldn't essentially be ones that we wouldn't be able to act on.
Through the chair, thank you for the question. The actual number of issues that we weren't able to proceed because of insufficient information is about it's about 16. A great number of the issues that were reviewed, if you go down to table 3, under Unethical Conduct, there were 19 reports. They were referred to HR. A large number of them didn't have sufficient information, but because they were grouped together in such a large number of similar complaints, we did review them with HR. So I know that's misleading. It's just difficult to parse that out. But the point I'm trying to make here is that it is challenging when there isn't sufficient information. Not all of them were simply closed without further assessment. We do try to assess each issue, and like I said, a great number of them were actually packaged together and reviewed with HR. It's difficult at that point, though, to go further with it if there is insufficient information. But we certainly did review a great number of them with HR.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I appreciate that, Richard, and I think I could imagine it being difficult without having enough information to follow up on those. So just wanted to check, do we feel confident that we're providing the level of guidance to folks that are making a report about the level of specificity that they might need to provide, or understanding that we also want people to be comfortable to make reports. But I'm just curious if there's anything we could be doing in terms of guidance when folks are providing this information, so that they know that that we might need a certain level of information in order to actually proceed with it. So it's not something I need a firm answer on now, but just something I wanted to put out there, and would appreciate if we could double check that.
Through the chair, indeed, we do have it in our action plan for this year to review the process and to clarify the process to individuals. That would include updating the fraud prevention hotline landing page that provides guidelines, and we're also planning to do an information campaign internally this year to refresh people's memory on the fraud hotline and processes and guidelines on how to submit issues. So I recognize that we needed to do some work there, and we're planning to do that this year.
Great, through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, I appreciate that. That's helpful.
Okay, I see no further questions, so I do have a motion moved by Member Jen to receive the report. Anyone opposed? I see none. Motion carries. Our next item, item 6.3, I think that was in consent. Item 6.4, I believe, was in consent. Item 6.5 in consent. Item 6.6 in consent. Item 6.8 in consent. Item 6.9 in consent. Our next item is councillor question period. Are there any questions from members of committee? I see none. Public question period. City clerk, do we have any questions from members of the public?
We have not received any questions.
Thank you. And closed session, we have none. So I guess our last item of business is adjournment. Our next meeting is May 17th, 9:30 a.m. I have a motion moved by Councillor Singh to adjourn today's meeting, that the audit committee meeting do now adjourn to meet again on May 17th. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? I see none. So the motion carries, and everyone have a good morning and